A lot of people have never even seen this. What's actually out there, but if you'll notice, there are little pins here and here. Hello, welcome to WayPoint Survival. Today, we're back out in the woods, and we're gonna talk about what a 1920s hunter would have carried. Stay tuned. If you remember from the last video that we did on the hunter's lunch kit, I showed you a few of the items that I carried out in the woods, and as I'm doing today for this video, and also what would typify what a 1920s hunter might carry. So say somewhere around 1925, maybe into the late 20s, and certainly on into the 1930s as the Great Depression got underway and people were even more desperate to put food on the table, to feed their large families. People had very big families back then, and so it was just something that they did. Now the first thing that you're going to notice is we've got here our Olds Stevens Model 15, and a very simple single bolt action, and you put it one at a time into the breech, and then it's perfectly safe until you pull this, which cocks it, and then of course it's ready to fire, and that's how you would go hunting. So rabbits and squirrels and things like that, and you know, often I've heard stories from old timers said, Dad would give me 5 shells, and I better come home with 5 rabbits or 5 squirrels. Each shot had to count, everything was expensive, and so they didn't just go out like a lot of people do today and just indiscriminately just bang away at things. They were very, very careful. And again, every shot counted. And that made a huge difference, obviously, when we not only World War I, but on into World War II. A lot of our guys were so used to being out and providing for themselves out in the backcountry on farms and small villages and things like that, and way out in the country, that they were almost all sharpshooters compared to a lot of folks today. Now, not every one of them, of course, but a lot of them were very, very good at making every shot count because they grew up that way, providing for their families, their mom and dad, brothers and sisters, and so forth. If you'll remember from the last video, and I want to do a little bit more detail on this today, we have this excellent walking stick. It's actually more of a cane, and it's got a handle here, and then it has this very large ferrule at the bottom. And this is so it doesn't sink too far in the ground if you find decently sturdy soil. And then it has this kind of a folding mechanism. See, it works like that. This works like that. And this is all iron in here. You can kind of see how that's made. Very, very well made. I mean, this is well over probably 100 years old. But this forms a seat. Now, you could use this as a stick to rest your piece on when you're firing at something to make it level, but it's generally designed to sit on. And you could also sit on a stump and put this in front of you in the ground and have a little table. That would work quite well for that also. But generally speaking, you would just carry it like this as you're walking. Gives you a little bit of something, a little bit of sturdiness, especially for those areas where the ground is not very stable. And of course you would carry your favorite hunting piece, whatever that would be, and then you would use this for stability. This would especially be important, as I said, in rugged terrain, or as a person got older, a little more unsteady on their feet, still needing to go out and hunt, or just doing it for the sheer enjoyment of being out in the wilderness. So this is a really neat product. You don't see many of these anymore, and I just wanted to demonstrate it a little more fully in this video. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of go from the top down and just go over everything that we're wearing and what we're doing. First of all, we've got this great wool hat, and this is sold by Nathaniel Logsdon at Logsdon & Company, and I really encourage you to check out the website. I'll put a link where you can get some of these great hats. And again, wool, it's gonna keep your head warm and dry. It takes a lot of rain to get it soaked, and even when it's really wet, it still holds in something like what, 80% of your body heat? So worth having for sure. And now I'd like to thank the sponsor of today's video, Electric E-Bikes. For many of us, riding a bicycle brings back great memories of our childhood when we go out riding around the neighborhood or through the woods seeking an adventure. However, as we got older, riding a bike just seemed to be more work than fun. But Electric E-Bikes has solved the problem. With a simple push of a button or a push on the throttle, extra power is added to those tired legs, and once more the thrill of bike riding is back in your life. With powerful disc brakes, a bright headlight, and a taillight, this electric XP4 gets me back outside and into the joy of the open air. With a range of up to 85 miles on a single charge, you can ride for hours and still get home before the street lights come on. And now that spring is almost here, Isn't it about time to get back outdoors and enjoy the wonderful things that nature has to offer? What better way to enjoy it than on the back of your very own electric e-bike? So if you'd like to own one of these amazing e-bikes, you can either check the link in the description box below, or you can scan the QR code that's been showing on your screen. Also, when you do order, make sure and click on the offer to receive your free e-bike cover using the discount code WayPoint at checkout. And once again, thanks so much to Electric E-Bikes for sponsoring this video. Next thing you'll notice is that I am wearing fingerless gloves. Now, you wouldn't always wear fingerless gloves. It would really depend on the temperature and how much dexterity you need, but this does help keep your hands warm. And if you are skinning game and gutting it and doing like that into the backcountry, it's good not to have full gloves on. This does most of what you need, and they're easy on and off and easily washed as well if you would happen to get them dirty. So something important to carry with you would be a pair of gloves of some sort. And again, this will allow you to have good dexterity in all the things that you're doing out in the woods. Next, you will notice that we're wearing a vintage, proper era correct duck specs hunting coat. And you can kind of get a good idea what that looks like all the way around. This is a waterproofed canvas. It is raining out here right now. I'm staying perfectly dry. It's not a heavy rain, but this was very typical back in the day. Canvas has been around for a long time. I'm also wearing a leather belt around the midriff. Now, depending on who you were, how big you were, you may not always wear a belt on your pants. I am, because I like that, like the extra support. But you would wear a belt around here, and this would contain just a couple of items. And we'll take this off and show you. The first thing that we have on here is we have our sheath knife. That would be very important for those guys. They always had some sort of a heavy-duty knife. And it didn't have to be a great big knife. It just has to do the job. And so this is a marbles knife. You can see that. These are great blades, excellent steel. They're lightweight, and they just do the job and get it done. Been around for a long, long time. So it's a marbles Gladstone. And I really, really like this knife. I've had a couple of them, and just the overall shape and everything really does well. Next, we have a leather pouch. This could be a possibles pouch. There's different things you would do. Now, remember that we're just out on a day hunt. We're not out for an overnight stay. That's not something that we're trying to prepare for. So this is minimal gear, and it's just so we can have lunch, enjoy being out in the woods, get a few rabbits and squirrels, whatever, go home to eat. But in here we have several items. The first thing that you'll notice is we have our 1920s can opener. So it pierces right there. You can see that little bit of a thing. That pierces in, you press it down in the can, and then much like today's modern openers, it just spins around and it turns that and the can opens. Someone said in the last video, no woodsman would have ever taken something like that. Well, you know what? They took what they had. And not everybody was able to always afford the best thing that you could get from the purveyors of such articles. And of course, when you get into the Second World War, you get into the little P38 can opener, which was a game changer. I mean, super tiny little thing, fits on a key ring. But a lot of guys would just take something from home. Again, they would take care of it and they'd bring it back. Of course, you can open a can with your knife. There's various ways to do it. Cut an X in it and pry the X open. But it's hard on your blade, and it definitely dulls it a little bit. And so if you could just bring something like this, you got room for it, doesn't weigh a whole lot, it'd be definitely worth taking. The next item that we have in here is a small oiler. And kind of get an idea of this. This is kind of old. It's been around for a long, long time back in the era. And unscrew this, and it's got a little bit of a cork right there, you can see. And then this shape here, this allows you to get in there. There is oil in there, and you're able to drip that into various places where you might need to oil just the mechanism to keep it going. And you wouldn't want a great big can. They did have 3-in-1 oil very early on, but that is small, it's convenient, it's easy to carry. The other item that we have is just this little brass tin, and nothing super fancy in here. We just have an oily rag. And very important when you're out like this in damp weather, we can clean and wipe down the 22. That keeps it from rusting, of course, and this will protect everything else from getting wet. And you would carry in this pouch whatever you needed. But again, for a simple day hike, you just, or day hunt, you just need a few simple things. And so those go down in the bottom. There's plenty of extra room. And then this just slides in like that. So like I said, it's easy to carry, and a fellow would definitely bring stuff like this from home if he had it. Flap goes over the top like that, and then there's just this leather piece that keeps it secure. So again, not a whole lot on the belt because you didn't need a whole lot. Before we go any farther, I'd like to remind you to go to waypointsurvival.com and sign up for the Waypoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. It's absolutely free. You're gonna love it. There's a lot of great ideas on there. You're probably gonna want to print them out and keep them. They are that good. Comes out at least once a week, if not more often. And please make sure and sign up. We'd love to stay in contact with you. You can also email us and let us know what you think about it. We always appreciate hearing back from you. So thanks a lot. All right, the next item I want to show you is right here. Now, it's this item. We'll get into that in just a second. But I want you to notice something about this coat. Even though they're wearing the belt around the middle, which was very typical of hunters back in that day, we have access right here to the game pouch, which goes all the way down through the back. And there's one on each side. So if you have the belt set right and high enough, you can still tuck your squirrels and rabbits down in there. And then there's also access, there are buttons right here, and you can unbutton that, and or snaps, depending on what your particular jacket has. This one does have snaps, and you can reach back, and this whole area back here is for your game. So again, there's plenty of room to carry stuff. It's one reason they didn't need to carry a backpack. Well, let's get into this. Now, this is pretty unusual, and a lot of people have never even seen one, perhaps. Now, there were different manufacturers that made these. You could find these in different configurations. But what this is simply a cleaning kit for the 22. We have extra rods in here, and they just screw together. Most of you have seen this kind of thing before, as far as the cleaning rod is concerned, so that's not that phenomenal. What really makes this neat is the small size. And then inside, we just have a simple cleaning jag. And this screws on here like so. And now we have a long enough rod that we can clean the 22, or if we get something stuck, let's say you trip and stumble and you ram the muzzle down in the mud accidentally, you definitely want to keep it clean. Also, in some of these old 22s, you might have a hard time getting the case out. Sometimes the extractors get worn down, and what you can do is you could take from the barrel and you can tap that case out. So you would definitely want to carry something like this. It would be not just for maintenance in the field, but also in case you have those emergencies where you absolutely have to get that stuck casing out. And it all fits very handily down inside. Screw it shut. And now we have all that we need for a kit. And this could be carried inside the game pocket, just stuck down in here like that. And again, plenty of room for it. It's out of the way. You don't even know it's there. Okay, since I went over this the last time, I'm going to be pretty brief. First of all, for the lunch, we have our nice little hunter's thermos here, small pocket size. And remember, these are glass lined, had a cork. This one's made in the very early 1900s and is made by Sears. Kind of get that where you can see that. But there is hot coffee in here, by the way. But this is something that would carried in a pocket, along with some bacon. And yes, I got some heat from the last time. This bacon is cooked. And a bit of cheese. Again, just wrapped in wax paper and taped with masking tape. And masking tape became popular in the 1920s, about 1924-25. So that would be carried in a pocket. That would be part of the lunch. In the other pocket, we have our deviled ham. You can see that. And see here, we can open it with a can opener. Now, last time I did accidentally show you the bottom. Yes, it's a pop top. But what you do is you print off an old label and you tape that old label on there, and then you can use it as a regular can. So if you're doing any reenacting, you can still find this. This is deviled ham, and it's just been modified. So again, if you're out and reenacting, just take a little bit of acetone or something and get the printing off of it, so you don't have a date and all that on there, because that didn't actually come out until the 1930s. And by the way, a little bit of info for you. It was Al Capone who invented the dates on cans, the famous gangster, because they actually got into the milk business and they found that their milk was spoiling, so they had to come up with a way to date it. And so the dating on the cans actually goes back to Al Capone. So that's kind of an interesting thing. All right, down in this pocket, we have our sandwich box. And some of you remember seeing this, and this is just really neat. A lot of people have never seen one of these either. And it just has our bread inside, just some good old dark bread. And I want to show you something interesting about this. Of course, this folds up, but if you'll notice, there are little pins here and here. And I didn't show you this the last time. And then this is a hollow tube that runs along the top. So when you put this together, you bend this out a little bit, and those pins, one goes there, one goes there, and it's that way on both sides. Of course, when you get finished, you just spread it apart, you fold the ends in, that folds down, and then minus the bread gives you a very, very flat thing that you can carry, take back home for your sandwich. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about why you would want to carry your bread like this and not have the sandwich already made up and just wrap it in a bit of wax paper. Well, you could do that. But the problem with doing that is, especially if you use any kind of dressing on it or anything, or if you've got a piece of tomato, even just the meat sitting there on your bread is going to be really soggy. And those of us who grew up taking sandwiches to school or to work, we know exactly what that's like. By the time lunchtime rolls around and you go to pull that out, that thing is just falling apart. It gets all over the place. It's a little bit easier to carry it piecemeal like this. Keeps your bread nice and dry. When you get ready to eat it, it's fresh. The ingredients are fresh. You've just taken it out of the can. And this would especially be important if you were in warm weather. Now it's cool out right now, so we don't have to worry so much about food spoilage, but that could be a big deal. So in general, it would be better to carry your food apart and then build your sandwich out in the woods. But people did take it. They did take their sandwiches already built and just dealt with the sogginess. After all, when you get really hungry, it probably doesn't matter that much. All right, let's continue to talk about what we're wearing now underneath and on top and in our pockets. First of all, this is a brand new shirt from Logsdon & Company. My friend Nathan Logsdon, he sells these. He's just got them in. I think there's 3 different colors available. This is the gray, but let me tell you about these shirts. These shirts only weigh about 18 ounces. They're very lightweight. Also, it's 60% silk and 40% wool. So it's breathable, it's much easier on your skin if you don't really like wool against you. And it's good for really for spring and for fall. You wouldn't want to wear it in super hot temperatures or super cold, although you could as a layer. But this is a great shirt. It just really goes on well, and it feels good, it's supple, and because the wool threads are slightly bigger than the silk threads, the more you wash it, the more comfortable it's going to get, and it's just going to be a very durable shirt. So I'll make sure I put a link down below, again, not only to the hat, but also to the shirt. Make sure and check Nathan Logsdon out. And then along with that, we also are carrying a bandana. These are wool pants, and this is the type of bandana that's historically correct, and Nathan has these made and sells them. 100% cotton. They're the real deal. So you know, sometimes these new ones, you gotta blow your nose or wipe something and feel like you wipe half your skin off. But these are really soft, and they're going to take some washings. They're going to wear in really well. It's just the kind of thing that Granddad used to use, you know, back in the day. And so you can get that as well from Nathan. And I highly encourage you. He's a small business owner. He's really trying to make a go of it. And any of the things that you can buy from him, he would just thoroughly appreciate it, because it really is great gear. This shirt, for instance, would be appropriate from the time period from about 1900 to 1930. And I just like the way it looks. It's got this great button collar. You can see that. I mean, everything is just made well. Deep pockets that button, and yeah, great shirt. Continuing on with what a 1920s hunter might carry, in our pocket here, we have a small telescope, and pulls out like this. So this will give us enough so that we can spot those distant movements in the woods. And you get in there and zoom that in. For instance, you see something, maybe it's a deer, maybe it's a squirrel, could be another hunter, And remember that back in the day, they didn't always wear red, they didn't always wear orange. A lot of guys preferred browns and grays like this out in the woods because it tends to blend in good. So it would be very important to verify, as it is today, what's actually out there before you go for it. So, little pocket telescope, easy to carry, lightweight, doesn't take up much space, and always to hand. The other thing we're carrying with us is a simple and small compass. And you would carry this for just general direction finding. A lot of times you'd be hunting on land that you were familiar with, but if you did get turned around, it'd be a good idea to make sure and have something like this in your pocket at all times. The next item a woodsman would carry, probably in a breast pocket, just to make it easy to find, would be a pocket watch. Definitely need a pocket watch. And this one does run. Actually belonged to my great-grandfather. But you would want to carry a pocket watch. This is so you could keep track of things, track of the time if you needed to be home, and you would carry it in a safe place where it wouldn't get knocked about, of course. That could be very bad. All right, let's talk about what a woodsman would carry in his pockets. And these are just wool pants, and they're the heavy-duty kind. You can get them from different companies, and we do have them rolled up, and we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. But heavy wool pants, again, going through brush, they're going to breathe well in various temperatures. They're going to keep you warm. But you want to carry some very important things in your pockets. We already showed you in the back pocket, carry the handkerchief. That's a first aid item. It's a whole lot of things when you're out and about in the country. But in the front pocket here, we would carry a small leather pouch. And in this leather pouch, we have our 22 shells. You wouldn't have to carry a whole lot. These are just a common lead nose. And you need something like this that could be carried well, where it fits nice in your pocket, and you could easily carry, you know, 40 or 50 rounds. I believe there's 50 in here, something like that, or there used to be, but it's enough for a day's hunt, and a lot of times they didn't have that much. Next item that we're carrying is our little pocket blade here, and it is a little 3-blade knife, but one of them is broken off. This goes back to before the year 1900, probably 1860s, 1870s. Still in pretty good shape. This one's been sharpened down. There's not much left, but still holds a good edge. And the main blade, of course, does very, very well. And it is a Thomas Wilton Sheffield, for those of you who are interested. Very nice little blade. In the left pocket, I have a simple sharpening stone. Just something to sharpen and wet the blades on. So you would use that for rabbits and squirrels especially. And most of the time when you were out and about, you would do most of your game work with your pocket knife. The big knife would be used for larger game if you happen to need it. But in general, keep your stone sharp, keep your knife sharp rather, so that you can sharpen things, and you just keep that with you in your pocket. And then you would also carry some sort of a little tin. This actually had ink in it at one point. It's Hason's indelible ink, it says right there, if you can see that. And inside of this we have some matches, strike anywhere matches. Keep the heads down so we don't get them wet, but enough to start fires. And that's pretty much all they carried back in the day. They simply just carried matches. And that's a perfect little size. You can find these online in a lot of different areas. And if your matches are too long, just take a pair of scissors and trim them down. They fit really well. All right, let's talk about these pants a little bit. These are Filson pants, generally very expensive. I happened to find these at our local Salvation Army store, and I got them for, I don't know, I think it was $7.99, so like $8. And when I saw them, I just snatched them up because obviously that's a really good deal. But this is exactly the kind of pants that you would wear and that they did wear back in the 20s. And finally, let's talk about these boots. These are hunting duck boots. These are the tall ones. Again, we have a lot of brush and briars out here. The bottom is rubber and the top is leather. And these are just great old school hunting boots. You can still find these online. Make sure you get them a little bit big so that if you want to wear wool socks, there's enough room to lace them up. But these are phenomenal boots. And not only do they look great, but they wear well. They're very comfortable. And it was very common back in the day to roll your pants legs up quite high. That would kind of keep the burrs and briars and things out, and just gave kind of unique hunting look. As a matter of fact, they even made hunting pants that were deliberately like 3/4 length. They were short. They didn't go all the way down to the ground. We would call them high water pants. But yeah, so that way you didn't go all the way down, and this allows you a little better clearance and doesn't tangle it up so much as you're walking through the woods. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this little foray back into the 1920s as once again we investigate and we try out the things that our fathers, our grandfathers, and our great-grandfathers used to use when they were out in the backcountry. Things that we can still use today. They were made so well that they're still useful and still durable, and I think there's a lot of lessons that we can learn from what they did back then. This is James Bender for WayPoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll find the link for the WayPoint Survival digital class. This is where you can train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard the top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find the link where you can sign up for the WayPoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. Absolutely free, totally chock full of great ideas and thoughts that you're going to want to read and keep for yourself. You'll also find the link for waypointsurvival.com, and this is where you can sign up to take in-person classes at our beautiful training facility here in Southern Ohio. And those classes start in April, so make sure and sign up for that and check out the required gear list. And if you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.